Well, hello, English 111 students. This is Dr. Mark Tinsley, and you're joining me in week 12 of our course, November 9th through the 15th. We are quickly drawing to a close, folks. I am telling you, before you know it, you are going to be 3 credits closer to your degree. So, let's get started today. We've talked about arguments of fact, arguments of definition, arguments of evaluation, arguments of causation, and today we're going to be talking about arguments of proposal. Now, before I jump into that, let me say one thing briefly. By the time you listen to this, I hope that I have graded your topic thesis statements on in the grade book. You turned those in this past week. I'm grading those now. I won't go into a lot of detail, but I had some real family emergency things happen over the past week or two. It's kind of slowed me down. I apologize for not getting these done. Of course, we're fine. I had all week to grade those, but I'm right up to the last minute getting it done, and I do apologize for that. However, we'll have it done. And this week, you're going to be writing your rough drafts for essay number 3. So I hope you're ready for that. I hope you've had a little bit of a break maybe this week, and we're going to jump right in to the writing process. We got 2 weeks to get this essay 3 done. That's plenty of time. You'll be working on the rough draft this week and the final draft next week. We'll get to that next week. But this week, rough draft of essay for essay number 3. Make sure you have looked at my comments that I will give you back on your topic and thesis statements. And all right, so let's jump right in and talk about arguments of proposal. Okay. As a essay 3 checklist goes, I guess I'm back to essay 3 now. 4 to 5 pages. Remember, 4 to 5 pages. That means 4 full pages, right? You can't just put a couple words on the 4th page and call that a 4th page. It's got to be at least halfway through that page, if not the whole page. 4 to 5 pages of writing. Doesn't count title page, doesn't count works cited page. It needs to be 12-point font, Times New Roman or Courier. You need to have 1-inch margins. This time you need at least 3 sources, so make sure that you got at least 3 sources in your paper. Use in-text citations, MLA format, and include a works cited page. Okay? Talk a little bit about more all these things at the end of the lecture, but like I said, right now, let's talk about the argument of proposal. What is an argument of proposal? Well, quite simply, it's an argument that suggests a change or action. So you're trying to get your reader to change something or do something. Okay, that's what an argument of proposal is. You can argue for or against something. You could say, I want you to do this, or I don't want you to do that. You can make arguments of proposal in either direction. Okay. When you make an argument proposal, of course, you have your proposal thesis statement, which includes your problem or your topic and your proposal, your claim, right? So this is nothing different than we've talked about in the past. So you've got your topic, you've got your claim or your assertion. A should do B, and the word should is very key here. I would encourage you to use that in your argument of proposal thesis statement when you do an argument proposal. And I'll tell you real quick that essay 4 will be an argument of proposal, so you will have an opportunity to practice all of this. Okay, as a reminder, essay 3 is not a proposal. It is an argument of fact, definition, or evaluation, right? Okay, so your proposal thesis statement has a problem statement, has a problem, and identifies a problem, and identifies the claim or assertion. A should do B, and it has the reasons. So A should do B because of C. That's what your thesis statement should look like. So A should do B because of C. So here's an example of a good proposal thesis statement. Every student who takes out a federal student loan, right? So federal student loans is my topic, should have to perform some sort of national service. So my assertion is that anybody who takes out a student loan should have to perform some sort of national service because, and here come my 3 reasons, which become my 3 main points. It will ensure the country gets something in return for the loan, number 1. Number 2, it will teach personal responsibility. And number 3, it will enhance national pride and patriotism. A should do B because of C. I haven't given you a lot of formulas this semester, but this is a formula that I would be willing to take to the bank. A should do B because of C, and C is your 3 main points, okay? All right, got it? If not, let me know. Let me go back over here and get us back on target. All right, so what are the characteristics of an argument or proposal? Very simply, they suggest a change or action. We already talked about that. They are future focused. If you're focused in the past, you're not making an argument or proposal. We're making an argument or proposal based in the future, and they center on the audience, right? Because we're trying to persuade, right? Remember that from an earlier lecture? We're trying to persuade. If I'm trying to persuade, then my focus is decidedly on my audience because I want them to change something. I want them to take some kind of action or stop doing something, right? All right. How do we write an argument of proposal? Same way we've written other arguments. We clearly define the problem to be addressed. That's step number one. We've got to know what the problem is to be addressed. Then secondly, we create a clear thesis statement that identifies the problem, suggests the change or action, and gives reasons for the change or action. A should do B because of C, right? Then we conduct our research, we revise our thesis statement, we develop our main points, and then we write the proposal. Nothing should be surprising here. This is kind of the similar formula that we've used for all the other types. And here you see it again, right? Okay, let's talk about argument proposals, some considerations here. Consideration number one there is in the main body, you must demonstrate how your change or action addresses the problem at hand, right? So your reasons have to directly relate to that assertion. How is the problem going to be solved based on your reasons? So that's clear. Your main, or it has to be clear. Your main body really has to tie closely to that thesis. Well, that's the case for any paper, but most assuredly for an argument of proposal. That main body must demonstrate how your change or action addresses the problem or problems at hand. You must also demonstrate that your change or action is feasible. That means, is it actually, can it actually be pulled off? For example, I use this example with my residential classes all the time. If I were to say I want to stop UV radiation from affecting, causing so much skin cancer in human beings, how might I do that? Well, I might be able to build a big screen that screens out UV radiation in space. I can put it out somewhere between the Earth and the sun, and build this big screen that filters out all of the UV radiation, or at least some of the UV radiation. I don't want to filter all of it out, but at least big portions of it, so that when it gets to the Earth, there isn't as much of it and it doesn't cause as much skin cancer. Well, the problem with that is, how feasible is it to build a big screen out in the middle of space? Well, how do I get the metals and the materials that I need out to there to do this? How much is it going to cost? Can I even do it? Because I got to get astronauts out there to do the work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's not feasible, is it? So, although that may sound like a good proposal, it's not feasible. Therefore, I don't want to propose it. Okay? So that's number two. Number three, your change or action must be directed to the future. We talked about that. Can't live in the past, right? And then proposals, unlike a lot of the other types of arguments that we've talked about so far, really lend themselves to visuals. So, graphs and charts and things of that nature. So consider using visuals when you do an argument of proposal. Okay. So that's arguments of proposal. Not a lot to say there. We've only been talking for about 10 minutes. So as you can see, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. The biggest thing you need to remember is A should do B because of C. That's your formula, right? Let's talk a little bit about integrating research. I'm going to talk for the next few minutes about some things that I've seen that we need to talk about and maybe correct in this class. One of them is integrating research. So types of research support to be integrated. When we think about integrating research, what are some of the types of things we would want to integrate? Well, we can integrate. We've talked about this before, so this is kind of review. We could integrate statistics, right? So 33% of people say. We can integrate numerical data. The skyscraper was 300 feet tall. We can integrate quotes. Mr. Smith said. We can integrate facts. John F. Kennedy was assassinated in 1963. We can integrate logic. It simply doesn't make sense to think that way because, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of ways that we can integrate the research that we do. So don't limit yourself to just statistics or just numerical data or just facts or just quotes or just logic. Try to use all of these different types of things throughout your paper. You want your paper to be interesting to your reader. You want it to offer a variety of types of evidence and research. Don't just do one. I see too many students just direct quotes all the time. They just one quote after the other. And that gets boring for your reader. It also looks pretty sophomoric to folks who may be looking at with a critical eye at your research. They think, wow, all this person's doing is throwing down quotes. You don't want to do that. So integrate all the different types of things: statistics, numerical data, quotes, facts, logic, all these things, okay? Some tips that I would give you for integrating research is be sure that the support that you offer is relevant. In other words, don't just throw down a quote or statistic. If it's not relevant to the argument, don't use it. Only use that which is relevant. And be sure that your support directly addresses your main point. Again, know what your main point is and make sure that your statistic or your quote or your logic is directly supportive of that main point. If it's not, don't use it. Be sure the support is from a reputable source. We talked about this back when we talked about research earlier in the semester. Make sure you're using scholarly, reputable sources, both internet and hard copy. Be sure your support flows well into your argument. Don't write like you're writing a bunch of bullet statements. Make sure you use transitional words and phrases, and that your narrative flows well, right? Be sure the support is not repetitious. Now, I'm not saying you can't repeat things, but sometimes we can get overly repetitious, stating the same thing over and over. In a 4 to 5 page paper, you don't need to be too repetitious. And be sure your support is not monotonous. In other words, don't be using, again, I talked about this a minute ago, don't use the same types of evidence all the time. Like somebody uses all statistics or all quotes or all facts. Don't bombard your readers with monotony, okay? And then MLA formatting. Again, I'm still seeing some issues here. Make sure you're using in-text citations. And typically an in-text citation is the author's last name and the page number. It's not always the case, but most of the time that's how you do an in-text citation. Your book, I think it's chapter 22 in your book, will show you and tell you what to do if you don't have last name and or page number. So just take a look at that if you have that scenario. Be sure to use a works cited page. You have to have that at the end. And if something shows up in your works cited page, then there should be at least one in-text citation somewhere in the paper. Usually we want to aim for more than one for that source. Make sure that if you have it in your works cited page, there's at least one in-text citation. And if you have an in-text citation, you better have something in the works cited page. And all citations must be in MLA format, chapter 22 of the textbook. I was right. Right? Okay? So make sure that you do that. Okay? And honestly, folks, that's this week's lecture. This is the shortest one I've done so far, and I'm happy with that if you're happy with that. But listen, if you have a problem with anything that I've talked about today, particularly with the arguments of proposal, please, 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 please email me, text me, call me, do whatever we need to do. We'll talk through it. I do not have a problem whatsoever helping you. In fact, I want to help you. I want this course to be something that you walk away from with new knowledge and enhanced skill, okay? I want to teach you how to write, I want to teach you how to critically think. That's what we're all about in this class, as you remember from our first week. Make sure you read chapter 12 of the textbook this week, Arguments of Proposal. Do quiz number 6. Quiz number 6 is due this week. And turn in the rough draft for essay number 3 by Sunday, the 15th. Okay, so a lot going on this week. Read chapter 12, turn in quiz 6 by the 15th of November, turn in your essay 3 rough draft by the 15th of November. In fact, remember, you don't have to turn in rough drafts in this class. I should say that, just to reiterate, make sure I'm being clear. Rough drafts are an option. They're volunteer. You volunteer to turn in a rough draft in this class. But I would encourage you to do it because I can help you, give you some guidance maybe when I review those. All right. All right. That's it. I will see you next week. Have a great week. Call me if you need me.